arrived home on a Wednesday evening in January after dropping my daughter off with her father, who was at that time my almost ex-husband. When I got to my door, I found a water shutoff notice, an electricity shutoff notice, and a 3-day pay or vacate eviction notice. I opened that door. I walked into a very cold and very dark apartment and promptly melted to the floor, trying to figure out what I was going to do, how it was possible that I had gone from a wife, a mother, a homeowner, a full-time employee, a grad student, a person who didn't have much that they were concerned about, as far as making it, having a roof over their head, having food in their cupboards, having a place that felt safe and was home. At that point, my divorce was almost finalized, and the only source of leverage that my then husband had over me was this ability to create fear for me that I would never be successful parenting our child alone, that I would never be stable enough for the two of us to be okay. And those 3 pieces of paper made that seem like that might be coming true. I spent that night not sleeping. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how I was going to fix this problem, how I was going to deal with moving forward and finding a safe place for myself and my daughter to be, how I was going to recover. In the morning, I got up off the floor and I walked into the bathroom and I stared at my shadow in the mirror. And I thought about all the lessons I'd learned in my life, and that you put a smile on your face, you never let anybody see you sweat, you don't ask for help, ever. So I made the best I could out of what I had with no electricity and no water at the time. I tried to give myself some semblance of order. I got dressed, I put a smile on my face, I walked out the door, I got in my car, and I went to work. At the time, I worked for a community health agency, a mental health agency actually, as a community educator and a family educator. So my job was actually teaching parenting classes. I worked with families who were struggling, and I, at that moment, was one of the families that I'd been trying to serve. My office felt like a refuge for me. I had gotten there early, I had snuck in, my door was closed, I didn't have windows, I didn't have to face anybody. It felt like I was going to be able to maybe figure it out for myself, what it was I needed to do next. And then there was a knock on my door. Reluctantly, I said, "Come in." And Keisha opened the door, and I remember watching her face as she stepped through the door, and then I remember the click of the door as it closed behind her, and she stopped and she looked at me and she said, "Gretchen, what's going on?" And in Waschke tradition, I did my best to put a smile on my face and not say a thing, but before I could stop myself, all of these words started tumbling out. The divorce is almost finalized, and he was cheating on me. My family knows what's going on. This is my fault. I have to figure out how to make things okay. My daughter's with her father. She comes home in 3 days, but I don't know what home is. So there it was. I had asked for help. Maybe it was more of a confession of need, but that was the best I could do in that moment. And I remember holding my breath. It felt like 1,000,000 minutes in the 5 seconds that it took her to look me in the face and say, "We got this." Turns out that we had another colleague that worked in our agency who needed someone to move into an upstairs apartment in her home in order for her to continue living in the home where she was. And in very short order, with the help of my friends and colleagues, I was able to pack up my belongings, move things into that space, and have a place for my daughter to come home to. That Sunday night, instead of sleeping in her own room, my daughter was sleeping in my bed next to me. And I remember feeling her warmth and listening to her sleep sounds. And I realized at that time that my community had become my family.